What's going on, guys? It's Frito here for your Overwatch. Big news roundup for you today. First of all, you can get a free Ramattra legendary skin. Don't buy this one in the shop. Watch your favorite Twitch streamers from now till December 20th. 2 hours gets you a spray, and the additional 4 after that will get you the Ramattra legendary skin. They also announce further Twitch drop campaigns that will be for the Winter Wonderland event. That'll be December 25th. Through the July 4th. That's actually a pretty small window considering it's around the holidays, so keep that in mind. And Lunar New Year drops will run from January 11th through January 25th. More free content down the line. Alec Dawson hosted another Twitter Spaces. He's the lead hero designer for Overwatch 2 and goes over the balance changes coming in Season 2 and reflecting on the game as a whole, also responding to some questions on Twitter. When asked about holding on to ult charge on hero swap, he said there's definitely a question of if we remove too much friction with retaining the ult charge. It does feel good in a lot of places, and we want you to consider switching heroes, though the number may be a bit too high. So talking about it, but nothing at the moment. This is change number 1 for me that I want to see implemented for the biggest reason. They campaigned and sold us on the game that Overwatch is a game where players don't switch, which is why it's okay for some players to have access to heroes that others don't. But now they're trying to make it not just good, but essential to do exactly the thing they said players don't do. They got to make up their mind on that one. When asked about tank hero balance in modes outside of role queue, so like deathmatch, or for me, open queue is just a mess if you pick a load of tanks, a mode I also don't play. Alec Dawson says they're looking at a change to tanks in non-role queue matches, particularly their increased health pool. Hope to have something they like in Season 3. So I don't know if that's a net health nerf on the tanks. Whether they do that or anything, this will be the first time in Overwatch history that characters had different balance in different modes, as far as I know. I suppose Zarya in Total Mayhem, perhaps, was the first in Overwatch 2 already, but something to look out for. The team gets asked if they'll ever bring the experimental card back, and Alex says they loved collaborating with the community on wacky changes and hope to make it happen in the future again. I also think the experimental card is perfect because we don't have to be married to a wacky idea. However, we can learn to love it. Flats introduced the headshot Earth Shatter with Reinhardt, which just feels natural in the game now. I think Lucio should be able to one-hit kill if he drops the beat on someone's head, but I also play support at GM, so maybe I'm biased. But whether it's that or just testing changes we don't like at all, it's a lot better than putting all the cards in Blizzard's hands, I feel. So I look forward to that coming back with regularity. Doomfist is here with the most significant changes this patch, and he gets asked on Twitter if they considered utility instead of making him a Punch-Bot, which is what they're kind of incentivizing with the raw stats in that direction. Alex says they have heard that feedback. We'll see where Doomfist ends up, as these are more aggressive changes. We did want to make his block and ult more impactful, as seen in the buffs here. So I suppose he doesn't agree with the Punch-Bot narrative exactly. He's like, oh, he's got other abilities. But the point is, his main utility is hitting the stun, which a lot of people don't like getting hit by anyway, which is my argument. I think getting concussed wasn't much worse than getting stunned out of your ultimate like you'll be able to do now with regularity. But Alec says if we ever return the slow to his shift or his slam ability, it would most likely be in a smaller area than before. With all the major buffs to Doomfist, feels kind of weird that Junkerqueen didn't get much love. When asked on Twitter that question, Alec responds in saying the buff to Junkerqueen's passive is quite significant. She'll be able to hold her own in a lot more fights and be tougher to take down. We want to make her a more attractive option, so if these changes don't put her in that realm, then we will come back with more. He also said that he wants her played in most ranks as a competitive tank, and Mr. X chimed in saying comps with lower healing output are good with Junkerqueen because she heals herself. I think the truth is, between Zarya and then Kiriko added on top of it with an AoE ability that cleanses, it's not the matter that the stats of wounds wasn't good enough. It just didn't apply because it's so easily counterpicked. He's asked if Genji's nerfs will be reverted, which he now gives a different answer than he did when he originally made it. Genji is still in the mix, but we'll see how much of the passive, because now, of course, he doesn't have the extra move speed from the DPS passive, just reload. Alec commits to the wait and see data collection strategy that they have. If he drops too far, could see one of those changes being reverted. So Genji's going to have a rough season if he wants to get those buffs back. Alec teases a Cassidy rework, saying that perhaps Cassidy is too one note in his capabilities as they point towards similar functions. There's a lot that goes into ability reworks, but I think ultimately we want to find slightly more utility for Cassidy. Maybe a small stun would be good on that character? Wait, no, that's against the rules. Alec admitted in the Twitter spaces that Sombra was a character they clearly overly nerfed because her performance went down significantly. The answer's here. We want to take a more significant look at Sombra and her kit versus just number tweaking. So that may take a little time, but when we do change her, we'll aim for them to be larger than a balance pass, so perhaps ability reworks. And he kind of teases them a bit more as well. We want to make sure our heroes have sharp mechanical identities, and sometimes their abilities are going to result in larger imbalance of fun for others. So talking about playing against Sombra or Doomfist. There's also a risk evaluation here. Sombra probably doesn't have enough of that risk with her E, which is her translocator, which she can place basically indefinitely unless you find it. He goes on, so we want to make sure that if there are sharp things occurring, there is also an amount of risk. You can look at Hog right now and say there's not enough risk now that we have Cleanse. In the future, we may look at his kit to either inject risk or decrease payoff to be closer. That's kind of cool, the philosophy they're discussing there. I think infinite stealth is a bad mechanic for Sombra because it's misleading players into thinking you should just be stealth all the time, which that's not what it's for. It's a means to an end. So it's broken for those who know how to use it. Gets Sombra players to play worse, thinking that it's good to be invisible. And it's just not that fun to interact with. Back in the day, there was a timer on how long she could be stealth and a bit of a cadence to her cycling of abilities, which most heroes have, where they go in, do a thing, and then need to get out. Well, Sombra can get stuck in limbo doing nothing, which makes her hard to track when you're playing against a good one, and also makes it hard for players to learn what they should be doing, because the kit kind of implies to do something unimpactful. Brigitte's ultimate was intended to be reworked. They had mentioned it multiple times, but are saying now that it requires additional resources, art, VFX, etc. Still figuring out what the exact timeline is on those changes. He also says, similarly, Wrecking Ball is at the top of their list, and they're trying some iterations on his changes soon. This means like abilities changing form when they have to get different visuals and sounds put in, maybe even voice lines, which they can't just do with numbers tweaks. So those are two characters to look out for. Support as a role constantly gets talked about in Overwatch 2, and Alec gets asked why there wasn't more support love in the patch notes for Season 2. He responds in saying, overall, we see the pressure on supports coming from a few heroes. Hopefully the Sojourn changes in this patch can alleviate a good amount of that pressure. We'll definitely make more changes as we move forward to continue that goal. However, I'll admit, I don't know if Sojourn's much worse, to be honest, at higher tiers, and she's just better at medium tiers. So good luck with that logic. And also Tracer got a very significant buff, so that's a hard hero for support players to deal with as well. He also goes on to say there are a number of things we are still looking at to help support feel better in the short to medium term, balance certain systems, which I don't know what that means, like maybe getting ult off of your tank from healing him. I don't know. Balance, you know, that makes sense, but then why didn't you do it in this patch? Maybe they just have ideas stocked away in case for the next small update they're going to do. But he goes on to say, in long term, we'll be making additional support heroes for some time. Every 4 heroes you'll see, it will be 1 tank, 1 DPS, and 2 supports. But don't get too excited, ladies and gentlemen, because you get 3 heroes a year. While Overwatch 2 is going to be out for a while, it also will take a while before this really kicks in, I feel. Further on supports, he explained the Kiriko changes from the patch in better detail, saying that they're trying to aim you away from being a heal bot that farms ultimates, which I think that means they should look at the heal numbers or how easy it is to land the heal, because I think it's kind of over the top, considering her identity is supposed to be about playmaking and offense, I thought. But that's why they tuned down the ultimate and made it cost more. I more so hate how hard it is to duel a target that's getting pocketed by Kiriko across the map. That's my complaint. And they gave her more damage opportunity with more kunais to throw. But again, her pocket is insane. But surprisingly, Mercy is a character that's doing very well, according to the data, where pick and win rate, she's not overtaken until Kiriko at top 500, which might be surprising to hear, but I also wonder how much of that is due to one DPS character standing out above the rest. Mercy sees benefit in a few different styles of play, but most, when there is one DPS that the enemy struggle to deal with at all, it sort of doubles down on that DPS's performance. And we all know that at higher tiers especially, Sojourn was gapping everything in the game. So maybe it doesn't matter so much in an uncoordinated coordinated ranked lobby if you have the teamwork supports when you could just enable a solo carry. We'll see if that adjusts in Season 2. And for the most part, I will say as the game slows down, which with Kiriko ult getting nerfed, DPS passive, removing move speed, I think it objectively is, there's more options for ranged characters for Mercy to support. And due to Sojourn's damage reworks, I think they do have some avenues to handle her in a duel and not just always get one-shot kill. But I still think Sojourn's very strong, just based on the balanced state of the game, at least at the high end. I was happy to hear that in Season 2, Alec Dawson said Season 2 will be more reactive, but we should be able to see balance sooner. Keep in mind, he did just take up the mantle of that job kind of late into the season as well. So now, jumping into this position, it's time to see the Alec Dawson era. And I hope it is marked by responsive open-mindedness. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave it a like, and don't forget to hit subscribe and click the bell icon to actually get notified when our new videos come out. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.